Hey, welcome to Lemon Law. We just have law and podcast left, so Lemon went on a mission to Brazil.
Yeah. So
Congrats to him.
Yeah.
We'll miss you.
fun news for our good friend Zach. We just got back from the break, so we figured we would pick back up with Lemon Law podcast. Hopefully, our audience hasn't left yet. I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Yeah.
But,
we had like one devoted follower.
That's true. Your
It
sister.
was Zach's mom.
Oh, was it Zach's mom? Oh yeah, it was
and,
Zach's mom.
And that one guy, Hunter, I think.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Hunter.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So over the break, we went to our respective homes and we're working on internships. So if you didn't know, we are college students here at Lemon Law Podcast. And I'd be surprised if you've got this far and did not realize that we're college students. But
Episode 7, big reveal. We are college students. We've been gone for 6 months.
yeah,
Welcome back.
exactly. So I was back home working on a marketing internship, which I'm not going to go into too much details because, NDAs and stuff, but it was a good experience. Got a lot of experience under my belt. Actually, I'm still working with them, just remotely from college. Overall, though, super fun. This is actually my last semester, so looking forward to graduating. And then what did you do for your internship, Zyler?
I went home and I worked at a automotive shop, so I did a bunch of automotive repair. I can talk about that. There's no NDAs.
That must be nice.
Yeah, so I replaced engines, transmissions, broke a bunch of stuff and cost my boss a lot of money because I'm new and I don't know stuff. So,
Yeah,
learning costs
right.
money. It's expensive. Yeah, so fixed a bunch of cars, did oil changes, wheel hubs, all sorts of brakes and things. So it was I learned a lot. It was really good. Yeah, super good.
That's dope, dude. Yeah. So we've had a busy summer, but we're back for the fall, doing our classes, but here to hopefully make you laugh a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Just because of the stupid things we say from time to time. And by time
Indeed.
to time, I mean all the time.
Every day.
Every day.
Every
So,
second of every day.
as you may have noticed, this is one of our first podcasts we're doing that isn't recorded. We do have a little tiny podunk mic that we're trying to work with here, and we're kind of moving away from video and focusing more on the podcast audio side of it. So we are looking for some feedback, though. So if you prefer seeing us sitting somewhere and talking to you, we can, of course, go back to that. If audio format works, right, because you can just turn us on and let us play in the background. Let us know. You can do that on Instagram or Facebook. We'll put out a post with this and
Or YouTube.
YouTube.
Probably. We might as well.
Yeah, drop it in the
keep
comments.
posting it on YouTube.
Drop it in the comments if you want. Let us know what you prefer, video or just audio.
Yep.
Because always trying to improve over here. We're also trying to hopefully get a little more organized as well as far as what we're talking about, and maybe have some consistent sections that we're going over. So we do know gaming and television's a big one, so if people want us to keep reviewing movies as they're coming out, it might be fun to do something revisiting Avatar, since it's re-releasing next week.
I've never seen it. So
You've never seen it?
That'd
I
be
saw
fun, I
it, but I
guess.
never saw it in theaters, so it would be
Okay.
interesting to see if it's worth the theater experience.
Is that next week?
Yeah, 23rd, I believe. So it might be fun to
Friday.
revisit that, or any new releases coming out. Let us know if that's something you're interested in, or if you have ideas for sections we should consistently do every week, drop that down below as well. We're also looking to possibly take little snippets of our hour-long episodes and just make some shorter form content, so you can just get those little sections we were talking about. If there's just one of those that you actually want to hear, we can hopefully cut those little bits and just do smaller little 10, 15-minute sections that are much easier to digest than a full hour-long episode.
Yeah.
So drop that in the comments as well if you would like to see smaller content. Maybe do some shorts as well. So that's all of our business. We did have something we wanted to talk about that isn't quite as boring as that. So Rings of Power. Let's go back to that.
If you don't know, that's the new Lord of the Rings show from Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that came out. When did that come out? September.
2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think it was 3 weeks ago.
They just dropped episode 4, I believe. So.
Yeah. Episode 4 just dropped yesterday. I actually have not seen episode 4 yet.
I haven't seen it. I've seen up through episode 3.
Same. Yeah.
So.
Watched. Yeah. Seen up to episode 3 so far. Let's just take a second. Our impressions in, let's say, like 2-3 words.
Okay.
Okay. I'll go first. It's okay.
Hopeful.
Yeah.
It's got potential.
It certainly does. Yeah. I'll say I went in watching it with really low expectations.
Me too.
I'd heard a lot of the drama around it, and I'm one of those people who doesn't really like a political statement in my fun time relaxing shows.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to have to, look through all of the political messaging and just get the fun bits.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just be able to zone out and enjoy it. So I was definitely hesitant going into it. How about you?
Yeah, I was pretty hesitant. I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan either. I haven't read the books. I've read The Hobbit like 3 times for school, and I've watched all the movies. So that's about where I'm coming from.
Did you watch them extended, though?
No, I don't think so. I think I just
dude.
watched the normal versions.
Okay.
Because 12 hours was enough for me. But,
Lightweight.
yeah. But, yeah. And I was a little hesitant because of the last few adaptations I've seen. Like Halo, I thought was bad.
Same.
The first 2 episodes I watched, I thought were really bad.
Didn't go back to it after that.
And yeah, I was just kind of hesitant, but it turned out like not awful, so I was pretty impressed.
Yeah. I would say I'm a little bit more of a nerd than you, but not by much. I've also never read the books. I've tried so many times.
I own the books. I just haven't read them.
No, same. I have read The Hobbit. That was a pretty easy read. Haven't read it multiple times. Didn't need to. My school didn't require it for some reason.
It was like 5th grade, they made me read it. 6th grade, they made me read it. And like 7th grade or something. So it's like, read it like 3 times in 3 years.
Yeah,
Not because I wanted to.
I think it was 5th or 2nd grade I had to read Fantastic Mr. Fox, which I hated the book, but the movie's actually really good.
I don't know. I thought the movie was kind of meh.
I really
to be
enjoyed
honest.
It. Let's stay on Lord of the Rings though.
On Lord of the Rings.
So, I'm a little bit more of a nerd. I grew up watching Lord of the Rings, and I always watched the extended edition. First time I ever watched the theatrical cut was actually here at school. Someone invited me over to watch Lord of the Rings, and they were starting it kind of late, I thought. They were starting at like 8 or 9, and I was like, bruh, it's going to be
like
pretty...
a 3-hour movie.
I was like, it's going to be pretty late when we're finished with that. And we ended up finishing only like 2 hours in, and I was like, where's the other half of the movie? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, we missed this scene, and we missed this scene, and this never even happened, so I don't know where that came from. And they're like, what are you talking about? That's not in the movies. And I was like, yeah, it is. I've been watching these things since I was a kid. And turns out there's an extended edition. So that's where that came from. This Rings of Power, though, is kind of different because if you don't know, it's adapting what J.R.R. Tolkien talks about in his book, The Silmarillion.
Yeah.
What he dubs his second age. So Lord of the Rings consists of 3 ages. There's the first age, and that's really kind of the building of the world. And I think
it's like the gods making the world, or I guess there's like one god, and then they have like lower like angel-y demigod things.
And I believe all the lower angel-y like gods are actually just aspects of the same god. They're just splinters.
I don't
of
remember
him.
his name.
Yeah.
But
Again, we're not major nerds here, so we're trying to piece
I watched a
this together.
YouTube video on it. You could learn the same amount as me by watching a YouTube video.
Yeah. Yep. I'm more of a movie buff than the deep lore. So that's the first age. And then the second age, I recall being the longest. And I know vaguely of kind of what happens in that age. Morgoth steals the Silmarils.
Yeah.
The elves leave Valinor, which is like their homeland.
And go back to Middle Earth or whatever.
They don't go back. That's their first time going to Middle Earth. And they bring war with them. We learn about, humans and Númenóreans. And the second age also has the construction of the rings. basically everything I know about the construction of the rings, I got most of it from the Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor games. I'm not sure if that's necessarily canon, but it made a freaking good story.
Well, then.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at going into the
Yeah.
movies, or into the show, I guess. They
Yep.
feel like movies because each episode's about an hour.
Yep.
Which I'm A-okay with.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
At least there's not ads for that one, so that's nice.
That's true. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm one of those people. I've really not been enjoying like the Disney Plus's shorter episode releases, like the Kenobi show,
I
where
didn't really watch it.
a lot of their episodes were only like 30 minutes long, and
Mm.
I was like, is this like a comedy cartoon? Because that's about the length we're going for here.
Yeah.
It's not like one of those epic 45-minute long, 26 episode long seasons, which I
Yeah.
kind of miss.
Last one from Disney Plus I really enjoyed was probably Loki.
Mm.
I didn't watch all of Moon Knight, but what I saw of it seemed pretty fun.
Wasn't a big fan of Moon
but
Knight,
also, like the first episode seemed really confused.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
not
We
like
can
confusing,
circle
just
back
like
to-
it didn't understand what it was.
We can circle back to Disney Plus in a
Yeah,
later
yeah.
episode. So, opening up on it, it definitely feels and looks a lot like the way it's recorded and the way they've edited everything. It feels and looks a lot like Peter Jackson's movie trilogy, which I
Yeah,
appreciate a lot. It helps keep that continuity, I think. It is a little weak because it starts with a lot of exposition.
Yes.
A lot of it is just telling you kind of what happened.
It's like 45 minutes of, hi, this is Gerald, and you're going to love Gerald. I
Yeah.
don't think anyone's named Gerald. But I also couldn't tell you any of their names. Except like Elrond and Galadriel.
Yeah,
so
those are the only
spoilers,
names I remember.
Galadriel and Elrond are in it.
Yeah, yeah. So it does have some of those older characters, those elves who are basically immortal. So they debut in this, and having it be so similar to the movies, I think, is slightly distracting for me
Okay.
when I'm seeing those different characters portraying them, and they don't necessarily portray them exactly the same as they do in the Peter Jackson trilogy.
Yeah, it's like they grew up over 1,000 years or something.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
that's
they're
wild.
yeah. I mean, it's not overly distracting.
No.
Definitely the actress they got for Galadriel really looks like she could just be a younger version of Kate Blanchett's Galadriel,
Okay.
which I really enjoyed. Elrond's guy, the guy that got to play Elrond, I think he's a great actor, but he is very distracting in the sense that he doesn't look like Elrond to me.
Okay.
He's not what's his name? Can't think of his name. The guy who plays Elrond. He's a pretty good actor.
I'm not sure who plays Elrond.
He plays Mr. Anderson in The Matrix as well.
Shoot.
Let me see. I'm looking it up really quick.
Yeah. So my thoughts, the set design I think is phenomenal. It looks super good, especially in like the third episode. I thought it was really, really good. The elves seem kind of like emotionless planks of wood, but
Well,
I think that's just elves.
yeah,
so
they're kind of-
kudos
they're
to the
kind of
actors
supposed
for
to
not
be.
having emotions.
Yeah.
I liked the dwarves.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mind that they got rid of like the beards for the women.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like that was a major issue. Because, in Tolkien's lore, all the dwarves have beards. Because it's just what dwarves have, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm not really sure what they're doing with like the little like river people, hobbit people things.
Yeah, they call them Harfoots. So
Harfoots.
I believe they're supposed to be precursors to the hobbits, and that's supposed to be what Gollum comes from. He's a Harfoot.
like a river person or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. They're weird,
Yeah.
I think. And the like Gandalf-y Sauron guy, I'm not sure. I'm not sold if he's like Gandalf or Sauron because he's killing fireflies over there. But yeah, he's interesting, I guess. He's learning the language pretty quick. That's pretty impressive.
That's true. Yeah. So the original Elrond, his actor is Hugo Weaving. I don't know why I
Hugo
couldn't think of
Weaving.
his name. As
Okay.
soon as I read it, I was like, oh yeah, of course he's Hugo Weaving. Kind of a bigger actor. I'm sure most people recognize him. If not, just look up Hugo Weaving.
Look
and
at
once
his
you
picture
see
and
his
you'll
face,
recognize him.
yeah, you'll know him immediately. Fantastic actor. I do kind of disagree with you just on one thing,
Okay.
which is the elves, because they are supposed to be like kind of emotionless and superior. I would say they're overly emotional, especially.
Hot take there. All right.
Yeah,
Or
I
maybe
would
mine
say,
was the hot take. I'm not sure.
maybe I don't know. I felt like they were too emotional, especially when we're talking about Galadriel.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because her arc kind of changed a little bit. And if you haven't seen Rings of Power, we're going to go into just a little bit of spoilers. We haven't really gotten into any yet, but just a little bit of spoilers ahead. So this has been your warning, spoiler warning. But if you haven't watched the first 3 episodes at this point, I mean,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Anyways, so with Galadriel's story, and I'm not sure if this is actually what happened, but they made her kind of into like a warrior princess sort of thing,
That's
which I always found her to be more of like a mystical magic,
Like a
mage
wizard or whatever?
queen. Yeah,
Like a seer or something. Okay.
So I found her being some war hero. So she's like a general. Her name, she's like General Galadriel, and she leads some armies. And it starts with them, and they're hunting down the remnants of Morgoth's forces. Which, if you don't know, Morgoth is the original big bad, Sauron, who is the guy from the War of the Rings. That's the Third Age.
He's like his right hand.
Yeah, he's just like his lackey, and he picks up where Morgoth left off. And so, in the Second Age, the beginning of the Second Age is where they've defeated Morgoth, I believe. Defeated, yeah.
Air quotes.
And so Galadriel, though, her brother died in the conflict, and she is convinced that someone's going to pick up the reins to carry Morgoth's empire forward. But she's like the only elf that thinks that.
But so far, it seems like she's the only elf that's right as well. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true. And so she takes her little battalion of elf warriors, and they're going all over the place. And so eventually her elf warriors, within like the first few minutes of the first episode, they had been recalled back by the High King. And she had just ignored it and kept looking. So they kind of rebelled against her and forced her to go back. And she was then, as soon as she went back to, what was it, Lorien? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Some tree or something.
Yeah, it was like Lorien, I think, was the city with the High King.
Yeah.
And that's where we meet Elrond as well. So as soon as they go back, because all of her troops had kind of abandoned her, she wasn't done looking
Losers.
for Sauron yet. Losers, yeah. And so she's trying to convince the High King to give her more troops, and we find that the High King doesn't like her very much, and she was the one who was breaking orders by still looking. So that was kind of where we go there. And I didn't mind the portrayal of Galadriel, but I did find it to be different from what I always thought Galadriel was as a character.
Okay, yeah. I never knew much about her. I was like, I'm pretty sure, the whole time I'm watching the first episode, I'm like, I'm pretty sure Galadriel's in, like, Lord of the Rings, so she's not gonna die here. And I'm like, am I wrong?
That was
I wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
Turns out, maybe I should rewatch the movies, because I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, so that is one thing when they have those characters who you know are later in the movies. Yeah. So a big plot point, especially in the first 2 episodes, is upon their return, the High King of the Elves kind of wants to get rid of Galadriel.
Yeah,
kind of
and
the
like
impression.
all the leftover warriors, basically.
Mm-hmm. And so he grants them the honor, again in air quotes, that to return to Valinor, which is their homeland.
Yeah.
And
or the land across the sea or whatever.
The Grey Havens. So if you've watched the movies, that's where all the elves are going during the Third Age.
Where Frodo goes.
Mm-hmm. They're all leaving for the Grey Havens, which is just a port, which then takes them to Valinor. But he grants them the privilege, air quotes again, to return to Valinor, which Galadriel is obviously hesitant to do, but then Elrond convinces her. Mm-hmm. So if you've seen the later movies, it's really kind of distracting because you know she's in Middle-earth later.
Yeah.
But you also see her then leaving to go to Valinor.
And you're like, so did she get like on a boat and come back or something?
which I know they did originally come from Valinor, but there's some canon reason as to why once they go to Valinor they can't come back.
Yeah.
I forget what the reason is, but there's some reason why they can't do that.
It kind of looked like when they shot it that they were going through a portal and burning.
A little bit.
So, I mean,
A little bit.
maybe there just is no Valinor anymore. So everybody just got roasted,
Oh.
toasted. Goodbye, Frodo. Sorry.
Frodo and Bilbo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big rip.
I thought Bilbo just kind of disappeared. Did he go to Valinor?
Yeah. No, Bilbo went to Valinor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. So
What
that was an interesting thing with Galadriel. Moving up from there, we see kind of at the end of episode 1, it shows a comet from all the different characters' perspectives.
Yeah.
And then it crashes down by the Harfoot, that's like the Hobbit-like people that we've been following. It crashes down by the character we've been following, who is Nori Brandyfoot,
Yeah.
which I believe the Brandyfoot last
Line or
name
whatever.
line, I believe that does turn into the Tooks and the
yeah,
Baggins.
I think so.
So I believe
thought-
she's a descendant
Yeah.
or an ancestor of Bilbo and Frodo.
Yeah.
But don't quote me on that. I might be entirely wrong.
Or I think the Brandyfoots are at least still around when, because
Or that.
I think there's a Brandyfoot or something at his party.
Yeah, there might be.
So I'm not sure,
Mm-hmm.
but you know.
Yeah, we don't
What's
follow
a
the
Brandyfoot?
lineages. We don't follow Hobbit lineages that closely.
I'm not like a Hobbit historian,
Yeah.
which is apparently a thing.
Really?
I've heard people do like study Tolkien's work and
Oh.
get like degrees in it and stuff.
Get a degree in
In
Tolkienology?
Tolkienology, yeah.
Wow.
Imagine having written books that were so like freaking detailed that people could study it and get a degree
Well, he built...
in what you wrote because
built-
you like built languages and crap.
Yeah, I mean, he built like 5 languages
Yeah.
for like everything. So there are a lot of legit languages in there. I don't know any of them, but I've heard of them.
Yeah, I don't know why you would know any of them.
Yeah.
It's not like you can go to Middle Earth and speak elf at
I
somebody.
mean, there are Trekkies who learn Klingon and talk it to each other.
I don't
so
know why you would. I'm learning French, and that's hard enough for me, and that's an actual language.
I barely speak Pig Latin, and that's hard enough for me. So.
I used to be fluent
Oh,
in
wow.
Pig Latin in like 3rd grade. It was like a big thing.
Yeah, Pig Latin was a big thing. Yeah, so it follows the Brandyfoots, and we see that comet actually touch down by the little Harfoot encampment, which in this show, they're migrating civilizations. So they're kind of like
Yeah.
traveling Indian tribes, sort of.
And they like read a book and they're like, this person just disappeared. We left him. Who cares?
Yeah.
You stopped to take a leak. You're gone.
They kind of live the pirate's code, apparently.
Yeah.
Those
Everyone
who
for
fall
themselves.
behind get left behind.
Yeah.
Um,
Every Brandyfoot for themselves.
yeah, but that comet hits and we see a dude in it, kind of an older looking dude.
Yeah.
So it hasn't told us who it is yet. I'm fairly certain it's meant to be Gandalf. So for those of you who don't know, all of the wizards, and there are 5 of them. There
Yeah.
are only 5 wizards in all of Middle Earth. There's the White Wizard, which is Saruman. There's the Gray, of course, Gandalf, who later becomes the White. There's the Brown, which is Radagast, and then there are 2 Blues. We don't really know anything about the 2 Blues. I mean, he talks a little bit about it in the Silmarillion, so we may or may not see them.
They weren't friends enough with Gandalf's, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, the 2 Blues are actually meant to be twins. But, anyways, moving on from there, all of the wizards are higher beings. They're actually like the same level of being as Sauron, believe it or not.
Why did he need a hobbit then?
Good question. Anyways, so they're supposed to be the same level, not same level, but the same type of being as Sauron. And the gods of Middle Earth sent them down, I believe, in the Second Age. I'm not entirely sure when they were sent down, but they were sent down in mortal bodies to help guide and direct people and all this other stuff. So I'm guessing that the person who's crashed down in that meteor is Gandalf. We have seen him show some magic in those episodes.
Yeah.
He did
like,
grab-
talked to some fireflies.
Yeah, which is a super Gandalf thing, right? Cupping it next to your mouth and doing a little whisper. Yeah, exactly. That was
Then they
part
just
of
like
why.
form a constellation. They don't even get big eagles or anything. That would have been a dead giveaway.
Yeah. I'm guessing the constellation is because he's looking for the other wizards,
Oh,
and they're
that would make
also
sense.
supposed to be stars. So maybe he's doing like constellations that are.
Because she was like, I've never seen that constellation,
Mhm.
and you'd think Middle Earth's like a disk planet or whatever, so you'd probably see the constellations. Isn't it a disk
really
planet?
a disc planet? I don't know.
It looked like it, but maybe that was just because it was a map that I was looking at on YouTube.
Maybe.
It looked kind of disc-like, so like 50-50 shot there. Is it Discworld? I don't know.
Could be anything at this
It's
point.
not Terry Pratchett's Discworld, so
Yeah, so I'm convinced that's Gandalf, and part of why I'm convinced about that too is because he's found by Nori Brandyfoot, the Hobbit character we're following, and I believe because he's kind of stupid, honestly. Like it's like he's just been born,
yeah,
and so he's just barely figuring everything out.
he's like a baby horse or something.
Yeah, kind of, and so I think that would help explain his fondness for the halflings and
that
the
would
hobbits.
make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I'm really leaning heavily towards it being Gandalf. Plus, if it's not Gandalf, then who the cuss is it, and why do we care?
Is it Sauron?
Well, it wouldn't be Sauron.
I'm kind of 50-50 sold here. It's like, it could be Gandalf, and that would explain why he hasn't murdered everyone yet. But it could be Sauron, and that would explain why the Fireflies are dead.
That's
But also,
true.
Fireflies just have a really short lifespan.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
And-
having them, like, dance into a constellation form was like, oh, that's my final act, and they died.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Well, fireflies. I don't know if people know this, but if you actually catch fireflies in a jar, they can't stay alive in there, and they don't glow in a jar either. So, yeah, like when you first catch them, they'll glow, but they're only good for like 24 hours in a jar, and they don't glow anymore once they're in the jar. They'll glow when you first catch them, but then they're done. Which a lot of these fantasy shows don't seem to realize, because they'll have all these people with lamps, like they do the Hobbits. The Hobbits have lamps, and they're lit by having fireflies in there.
But it's more like a basket, so
Yeah.
would that work for the Firefly?
I don't know. I
Not
think
a
it's not necessarily
fireflyologist.
that like you're losing oxygen or anything. It's the actual process of being captured and withheld, I believe.
It's like the stress. They have
Yeah.
like a stress response, which causes
Yeah.
them to no longer glow.
Something like that. And again, I'm not like a biologist or fireflyologist, whatever you want to call it.
Like an entomologist.
Yeah.
That's the study of insects, supposedly.
I'm not one of those.
So
I have heard this before. So, I mean, at the same time, it might have been that he killed them with his magic and he just didn't know how to control it well yet. Or
which seems possible. He is like Gandalf's known for like fireworks and crap with the hobbits. They're like, yeah, we love him, except also we don't. But you know, he does good fireworks.
That's true. That's true.
But the hobbits get like super unadventurous, and it seems like these river people are pretty adventurous, except not at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nori's pretty adventurous, so maybe Nori is like ancestor to Bilbo because he's like, your ancestors were like cool and stuff. What's wrong with you, man?
Mm-hmm.
Go fight a dragon. Now you're cool. What a day.
Yeah, well, that was the thing even with hobbits. So the hobbits aren't necessarily adventurous as they are kind of homebodies. I
Yeah,
believe.
they're like super homebodies.
And they definitely get that in this show.
Mm-hmm.
But then the Baggins and I think it was the Tooks.
Yeah,
were
I think
always
it's the Took line or
the
whatever.
Took line. I think was always supposed to be big adventurers and always wanting to get out and do stuff. Which is why I think that might have come from Brandyfoot, because she's very different from the other hobbits, where she actually has an interest and excitement for what is outside of the Shire, so to speak. They're not in the Shire, but
No, they're like
they're
vagabonds.
wanderers. Yeah.
But she does like wander around and like go outside the fence when she's not supposed to be, and you know all sorts of. Well, she helps Gandalf or whoever that guy is. When all of the other hobbitses or whatever they are like, what the heck? What are you doing?
Yeah. Honestly, the best way I can describe the hobbits in the Rings of Power. I mean, I say hobbits, but they're technically not hobbits yet, but they're basically hobbits.
How does one become a hobbit? I don't know.
Well,
Is 1,000? Are they only 1,000 years?
What?
Is it
The
more than
ages?
1,000 years from what we're watching to
yeah,
Bilbo?
yeah.
Okay,
It's-
because that makes sense. Because Bilbo's like 111, but also he had the ring.
Yeah, the ring gave him
So,
extra
like,
long life.
Broke his life span thing.
Well, same with Gollum, right?
Yeah, because Gollum's like a river person or whatever, and he's been alive for like 1,000 some odd years or something, going insane.
Mm-hmm. So I believe this is, I think 10,000 years
Before
even the beginning
yeah,
of
they
the
might
Rings
become
of Power.
hobbits, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure what the difference is between it. I know that people have always been like, hey, they're not exactly hobbits yet. And I'm like, okay.
But like, look at their ears. They're pretty prominent, man.
They're
Everybody's
pretty...
ears in this show, super prominent.
That's
I don't know
true.
what's up with that.
I have noticed that. Even the elves.
Yeah.
Their ears
Even
don't
like
look...
some of the people, they have like ears that have been like pushed forward by toothpicks or something.
Elephant ears. I found it weird that the elf ears, like, they are pointed, but I've always thought of them as being like delicately pointed.
Yeah.
And
like
these guys are like thick boys. Yeah.
They're like, I'm doing some serious hearing with this here.
Yeah. What was I going to... What were we...
You were talking about, like, the 10,000 years or whatever.
Hobbits.
Becoming, like, Gollum and all that crap.
Yeah. Hobbits, I guess, yeah. Baggins are... Yeah, I think I already said everything.
Tooks and...
Yeah.
Fool of a took.
Fool of a took. Yeah, so those are kind of the main storylines going on there. There is another one. I actually...
The elf and the human?
Yeah, I was really enjoying that storyline much more
that one.
than I thought that I would. Mm-hmm. Everything else is kind of like, okay, obviously they're going to do something here, and obviously they're going to do something there.
It's like a lot of building. Mm-hmm. Galadriel's story and this other elf guy seem like the most interesting so far.
Elrond, yeah. And Elrond, I think, is especially interesting because... I think it's the end of the first episode, they introduce Lord Celebrimbor, which I'm sure for most of you, you're like, I don't even know who that is.
It was like the end of the third.
Was it the end of the third?
Or into the second, I think.
Into the second, maybe. Because
Galadriel's gone, and he's like, I want you to work with Lord
Celebrimbor.
Sure.
Yeah, and so when I heard that, I got really excited, but I'm sure most people at home...
Elrond.
Well, most people at home, I'm sure, have no idea who that is. So... Celebrimbor, is the Lord of Eregion, and Eregion is the elven city of forges, pretty much. Okay, and cool. So Celebrimbor was the greatest elven smith of the Second Age. He did some of their greatest art pieces and weapons and everything.
Did he make Sting?
I don't know if he made Sting.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, possibly. But what he did make... was the Rings of Power. Yeah.
He was like corrupted by Sauron? Or?
Yeah, so kind of. So during the Second Age, a lot of what's happening isn't actually war. It's political machinations.
Oh my gosh, it's the prequels again. Oh no.
Yeah. So in the Second Age, Sauron actually infiltrates the elves by taking what's called his fair form. So Sauron looks like an elf, and he comes, and I believe he actually comes as an elf lord, and talks to Celebrimbor and gives him this idea of the Rings of Power, and then works with him to figure out how to make it, and kind of break down the science, I guess you could say, the magic behind giving these rings power and making them. But in that process, right, Celebrimbor was just looking to make a great piece of art and something that could empower these rulers to lead their nations. In that process, though, Sauron was able to kind of build in a back door to all of the Rings of Power. So Sauron only actually built one ring, because I can hear you guys at home saying, yeah, right, Sauron built the Rings of Power. And it's yes, but also no. Celebrimbor built the Rings of Power, and Sauron built the Ring of Power, singular. The One Ring. Mm-hmm.
The like invisibility ring that drives Bilbo insane.
Yes.
Cool.
That's the only ring Sauron actually builds, but he's able to use his knowledge of the other rings to bind those rings to his. And I'm sure the show will go into more detail around that.
He's got like the master ring.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. So when they brought in Celebrimbor, I was definitely excited. And then seeing Elrond go to the dwarves to try and get the manpower that they need. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. And I also didn't mind that they took the beards off the dwarf ladies.
Yeah, I didn't.
Like, I saw her without a beard, and I was like, oh, thank goodness. This is
like,
the last
really-
thing I wanted to see.
I really don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish he had broken more rocks. There was a surprisingly small amount of rocks, I thought. It was like one strike, yeah, that was pretty cool, but also, like, you broke like 4 rocks, dude.
Yeah.
You gave up really easy before you got banished from all Dwarven kingdoms forever.
It's okay. He took it back.
I mean, like, he hasn't left yet,
That's true.
but it's like, you just banished your friend who you've now finally decided to forgive for life.
Yeah, and to clarify, we're talking about Elrond's dwarf friend, Durin, who was in it.
He's prince of this dwarf kingdom. I don't know if they're...
Yeah, that's...
Is it a completely different kingdom than Thorin's? I think it is.
Yes, but also no.
They're, like, related?
They are related. So all the dwarf kingdoms are related. So these, this is the kingdom of... I can't remember the name. I want to say Faldara, but it's not Faldara. I'm pretty sure that's a Wheel
pretty
of
cool.
Time.
I liked the set for the kingdom. I thought it was really, really
well, the set
done.
for the kingdom, that's the Mines of Moria.
Oh.
Yeah. So you
Which
see,
they go to in the actual movies.
They go there in the Fellowship, I believe.
And it's like abandoned. And
That's where they fight
dead.
the Balrog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're in the Mines of Moria there. They're not called the Mines of Moria right now, but that's what they
because
become.
it's inhabited. So it's like the Kingdom of Moria or something.
Well, it's mines. They do mine there.
Well, yeah, because it's
And
the dwarves.
Yeah.
Because, like, the dwarf lady tells them all about how she, like, sings to the rock to, like, find the properties, which I thought was, like, a cool dwarf magic thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so that's where they're at. That's where he goes. And Durin, who is there, he is the prince of the king. So, but Durin, if you remember from The Hobbit, we have Durin's Day, right?
Okay, yeah.
And that's because of Durin. He does a bunch of stuff. I'm not actually that familiar with Durin, but I'm pretty sure...
You know he has 2 children and a wife. And his dad has a gray beard.
That's true.
And he has a red beard. And he's good at breaking rocks with a hammer.
So I believe that Durin actually goes and founds the kingdom of Erebor.
Okay.
Which that's the mountain, the lonely mountain that they go to in The Hobbit.
That's Thorin's. Okay.
So I believe Thorin is one of his descendants.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because I think one of his kids was like Gimli or something. So...
Gimli is the son of Gloin. Yes, it does tie back, but I don't think
like
Gimli I don't think is directly a descendant of Durin.
Which would make sense.
But Gloin, his father, was one of the 13 dwarves that was traveling with Thorin.
Okay.
I believe.
Gloin was?
Gloin, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, because, I don't know. I thought that because one of my roommates was saying that Gimli was, like, called Son of Doran, and he was like, so is that Gimli, or does that mean that he's, like, descended from him distantly?
I think he is descended from him distantly.
What it is, if it's, like, 10,000 years.
Because I believe
dwarves don't seem immortal.
I believe Gloin he leads the Hill Trolls, maybe? Okay. Not the Hill Trolls, the Hill Dwarves.
Okay.
Because there are a couple different sects of dwarves that go around. I'm not entirely sure, though, but I know that they're all pretty related. He might be cousins or something.
Okay.
From Durin. But a lot of the dwarves, like, a lot of what the dwarves become in the Third Age can be traced back to Durin. And so Durin is kind of seen as the father of the dwarves.
Oh, okay.
And so a lot of them
are like son of Durin.
Son of Durin is in like you're a dwarf.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's like okay. That's just what they call dwarves.
Kinda, yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. What were we talking about? Yeah, so the dwarves are interesting. Moria. And then Moria and that's right, the Southlands. So
we haven't
been, got,
or is that what the guard
and
the healer girl are doing?
That's the Southlands there. Okay. So
because Because there's that idiot kid with the freaking corrupted sword. And he bugs me, man. He's so stupid.
Yeah. So,
but also, it seems like he's gone insane because he's like destroying his floorboards with a freaking fire poker.
There was a mouse, okay?
Okay, that was not a mouse. Very clearly not a mouse.
Yeah, so moving over to the Southlands, if you've just done Lord of the Rings and you haven't done anything else, you probably never heard of the Southlands. I'd never heard of the Southlands. And I didn't really know what it was that they were talking about. I was like, oh, are they referring to like the Rohirrim? Is that what they're talking about? It's not the Rohirrim. It's populated by men, but the Southlands is actually located in Mordor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with the War of the Ring, that little mountain range there that kind of blocks in Mordor, everything in there that is Mordor, that is the Southlands in this show.
Okay.
And it's populated by humans, and there are elves that are positioned there as basically guards. So the humans that populate it are the descendants of the humans that fought with Morgoth. So when Morgoth was in charge, he had humans that fought with him, as well as his orcs that he built or created. And
the elves seem to hold a grudge.
Yeah, seriously.
They're like, it's not what their ancestors did, it's who they are.
Yeah.
I'm like, that seems kind of messed up, man. But also, that kid's a freaking idiot, so maybe you're not wrong.
Yeah. It's been a couple thousand years since Morgoth's fall, so the people who live there are no longer the people who fought for Morgoth, just their descendants.
Because they're humans, so they die every 80 years or so.
Yeah, but the elves who are there, they have a tower to kind of watch over it and make sure the humans aren't doing anything bad. Those elves, though, have been there basically since the fall of Morgoth.
I think he said like 75 years.
Yeah. I mean, they get switched around.
So, the guard we're following has been there for 75 years. And he seems to be in love with this human healer chick,
which is interesting.
Who seems to be mad at him currently, but I don't know.
Yeah. They, of course, had to bring up, that no elf-human relationship has ever worked. There's a whole story about that in the Silmarillion. I don't remember their names exactly, but I remember it ends in tragedy. It's basically like a Romeo and Juliet, but for elves and humans.
Because elves live forever or whatever?
Yeah, humans don't. Yeah.
I don't know, it worked all right for Aragorn.
Yeah, that's the only one that actually works,
of course,
I guess.
He's like a Númenorian. So.
Yeah, which helps.
Yeah. We did meet the Númenorians, which was really cool.
We did.
They have a really cool island set.
Yeah.
That they did. That is super cool.
Yeah, the island of Numenor. I was super pumped to see that because I did know Numenor played a big role in the Second Age. I'm also pretty pumped, and if this pisses you off, because spoilers, but I'm also super excited to see Numenor fall. So, if you remember,
cool
Numenor's not around in the War of the Ring, and it's because the Númenóreans fall. So Aragorn, he is a descendant of Numenor.
Because there's one ship of Númenóreans who don't fall to like Sauron's corruption, and they come back to the mainland, and they mix with like normal humans.
And that makes Gondor.
Yeah, and they make like the true kings and Gondor.
Yeah, so that's going to be, of course, like Aragorn. And we actually follow some of Aragorn's ancestors here.
That sailor guy.
Yeah, so I can't remember his name. His name is something, but his son, who we also see, is Isildur. And if you remember from the movies, Isildur, that is the guy who cuts off the fingers from Sauron and then claims the Ring of Power as his own. And so Aragorn is, I believe, his grandson.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So we're kind of following from that side, which is very interesting. Another thing about Numenor, though, is that a lot of what made it fall, political machinations.
That makes sense. They don't seem super...
politically sound.
Yeah. Above board. They seem kind of sketchy.
From what
especially
we've seen.
like the queen or whatever, and like her advisors. They seem to have a serious grudge against elves for some reason. Probably because
they haven't gone into it. I'm not entirely sure why. I know Sauron was working politically there too.
Sauron loses his like Fey form or whatever when Numenor falls, because the gods like destroy the whole island.
Yeah,
So like,
Yeah.
why not?
So Numenor falls, and then the gods literally being like a giant.
Like a tsunami. Or
Yeah, it wasn't like
something.
it was like a freaking sinkhole, and literally
Oh, they
just
just, like, suck it
swallowed. Yeah, swallowed like the whole island, and only a few of them live and escape, and like we talked about, become Gondor.
Yeah. The architecture of Numenor does look a lot like Gondor, which I thought was super cool.
Yeah, it does. It does, definitely. Actually, speaking of Numenor, I want to talk about Galadriel's companion that she meets.
Yes, the Southland King.
Yeah. So the Southlands, they're without a king, but they have like a theory, or not a theory, like basically a lost king, kind of like what Aragorn was.
Mm-hmm.
Basically the exact same thing. They're like, we have a king, he's somewhere, we just don't know where he is yet.
Yeah.
But when he
or
comes,
who he is.
yeah,
He's King Arthur. It's
exactly.
the King Arthur thing, basically.
Pretty much. And Galadriel meets the dude out on the ocean. We didn't talk about that.
Yeah, he's kind of sketchy scumbag, is what it seems like they're trying to play him as. Because he, like, separates his part of the raft from all the other guys. They get taken down by this giant whale thing. And, yeah.
Actually, speaking of that, it just came to me. What if Numenor isn't actually destroyed by a giant sinkhole, but they have that giant monster come and destroy it instead?
That would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool.
I would like to watch that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's actually what they're going to do, but they could.
And they just get, like, a flock of them.
Yeah.
A flock of
sea
demons.
Sea demon things that just go blow everything up.
Like Leviathans, kind of. I don't know what it was. It was...
I don't know. Some big sea
Yeah,
monster.
like a Leviathan.
So just to recap, we didn't go to this part, but Galadriel jumps off of the boat, taking her to Valinor.
Yeah, and then she's like swims 200 miles.
Yeah, and then finds some other shipwrecked people.
Like a champ.
Most of them get killed by a big sea monster, except for this companion we were just talking about. I don't remember his name.
I don't know either.
I don't remember. The Black Elf's name I just remembered is Arondale.
Okay, cool.
Or
He does some
Arundel.
pretty cool like spin kicks.
Yeah,
He's
does.
like better at martial arts than everybody else.
That's true. He actually fights like the elves we see in Peter Jackson's trilogy.
He's like good.
Yeah. The other ones kind of get their butts kicked.
Yeah. Maybe they're out of practice from being like stationed
yeah,
for
peacefully
75 years in places.
Exactly. Rocking those dad bods.
Yeah. They're still pretty fit because
Yeah,
they're elves,
they're
but
pretty
like
fit.
no spin kicks from them. So what's up with that?
Yeah, so then Galadriel and her companion are kind of shipwrecked, floating around, and they get picked up and taken to Numenor.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how that happens.
By Isildur's father. Or
I can't remember his name. It really bugs me, man.
He was pretty cool, it
He's
seemed
pretty
like.
cool. Yeah.
Because it sounded like he was told, hey, go kill Galadriel. And he was like, hey, Galadriel, what's up?
Yeah. Yeah, the queen was kind of like underhandedly telling him, you should go kill Galadriel and maybe I'll make your family important again. Because he was like a noble family, but they had lost favor.
Yeah.
And so she was like, we can give you favor again. But
Yeah.
it seems like they're actually...
But it seems like you're an elf lover, because your name means elf lover.
Yeah.
Or elf friend, or
elf
whatever.
friend, yeah.
Or, no, he says it's like Star Watcher or something.
Yeah, it's like Star Watcher
Star
and
Lover.
Numenorian or something, and then...
And then in, like, Elvish, it's
Elf
elf
friend.
friend. Because, you know, the elves loved the stars because that was the only light when the elves were born.
Right, yeah. That's true.
You know, there's some deep lore for you. That's all I know.
Don't quote the deep magic to me. I was there when it was written. We'll just switch to Narnia really quick. Yeah, so there's that. I'm interested to see where it goes with Galadriel's companion.
Yeah, he seems interesting.
I firmly believe that he actually becomes the Witch King.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly why I'm thinking that. But
Wasn't that kid becoming the Witch King?
I was thinking it could be him too.
Yeah, because he's already corrupt.
Well, kind of, but not really. He has what is it called?
He's got like a shard of Morgoth's sword or whatever.
I don't know if it's Morgoth's sword, but it is like a corrupted sword.
Yeah, it's got like the brand of Mordor or whatever.
Yeah.
Morgoth.
And so he might become the Witch King. But I'm not entirely sure because we know all the Nazgul are fallen kings, fallen
from
human
the
kings,
rings, right?
Yeah, from the rings. So it could be that they're gonna show you this king of the Southlands rising up and actually becoming a good dude, and then he gets the ring and just gets immediately corrupted.
That would be awful. He
Right?
seems kind of cool. He's like got these thief skills, and he's pretty good at fighting. He's got like this berserker rage going on.
Yeah, that berserker rage was pretty intense. I know it had
Yeah.
me wincing at a few moments there.
Yeah,
Like that wrist. Ooh.
yeah. That's pretty rough.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'm a good blacksmith or whatever. So that makes me think maybe, I don't know, would he already be descended from the Numenorians? I don't think so.
Who?
The companion.
No.
He wouldn't be. He's full
not.
human, probably.
Yeah, so there were just humans, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then they split from that war. So Numenorians are the humans that stood with the elves against Morgoth. And he's a descendant from the ones that stood with Morgoth.
So he's just a man.
He's just a regular old man.
Like the guy who shoots Smaug.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was cool.
Yep. And the Numenorians, they were gifted Numenor and also extra long life, I believe.
Right.
And I think it was all Numenorians.
Okay.
Kind of like, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
But
so that's that.
Yeah, he seems interesting. Yeah, kind of being shown as maybe untrustworthy, but also very like scrappy, kind of get
Honestly,
you out of stuff in a pinch.
He makes me think of Aladdin.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. It's like if Aladdin was rated PG-13.
yeah. And just like broke people's bones.
Okay, maybe not PG-13, more of like a TV-14 to maybe TV-MA.
Yeah. Like a mildly corrupt Aladdin.
Yeah. But
more than a thief, but less than... he's got potential.
There's potential, yeah. I'm definitely intrigued to see where everything keeps going. So with the elf in the Southlands, Arundel, one of my favorite theories that I've heard surrounding him, because if you don't know, so there are orcs, and those were created by...
corrupting elves, I think.
No.
Right?
So orcs were they were Morgoth's creation.
I thought he couldn't give things life, though. Because that's
Morgoth...
like a power of the main god. So he could corrupt life. So he corrupts a bunch of stuff. Like corrupts elves into orcs, and like corrupts monsters into more extravagant
I don't
monsters.
think the orcs or the goblins, I think they're kind of interchangeable at this point, but I don't think those are corruptions, because the corrupted elves are what's called Uruk-hai, and those don't come about until the Second Age.
Okay.
Because before this, orcs couldn't be out in sunlight, as we see in one of the episodes. They're kind of digging a trench in the Southlands, and they've got all of the elves from the tower prisoner. Mm-hmm. And they do try to escape, and they end up pretty much all getting butchered except for Arundel.
Yeah.
And
he chops down a tree. It seems like a big sticking point for most of the elves. But...
It does, yeah. Anyways, though, a theory that I actually heard from my dad, and that I think is true, because the Uruk-hai are corrupted elves, so I believe Arundel might become the first corrupted elf to be made into an Uruk-hai.
Oh.
Yeah.
You think he's going to get, like, tortured enough that he becomes corrupt?
Well, not that he becomes corrupted, but they use their magics to just corrupt them. Because last we saw, at the end of episode 3, he was brought before Adar, I think is what they were calling him.
He seemed like the Orc King or something.
Yeah, the orcs were all chanting his name, and they were wondering why their orc leader was using... an elvish word as a name. And then he's drawn before him. You don't actually see him clearly, but it does look like he is an elf. And so I think that could be Sauron that he runs into there.
Oh.
And Sauron is able to use his magic to corrupt and make Uruk-hai out of him.
Oh.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting twist.
It really would.
He was pretty cool.
He was, actually. By far the dopest elf we've seen so far. He did some really cool moves with those chains.
Yeah, that was really cool.
And that warg, he freaking wrecked that warg.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And it, like, just gutted a couple of the other guys.
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty brutal.
There's one with a freaking spear, and they couldn't even fight the warg.
Yeah.
They were like, I have a spear, but I'm going to hold it out to the side so that there's nothing between me and this giant warg eating my stomach.
It's like, how do you fight a hog? You plant your spear and wait for it to drive itself onto it.
Yeah.
I feel like that would probably work on this Uruk-hai or whatever. Warg.
Yeah. Because it's just running around like a freaking maniac.
So you just gotta like position the spear, plant it in the dirt, and like hope it jumps on it.
Mm-hmm. Which it would definitely do.
Yeah.
Because
it's coming for your guts.
It was not very smart from what I saw.
No,
kind of just running
it was
around.
pretty rabid.
Yeah. It was just going for whichever.
Yep. whoever
Yeah.
was nearest, and it didn't finish its meals ever.
Yeah, kind of just ate their stomach and then was like, haha, next
delicious.
one.
I love entrails more than anything.
Yeah.
So
Wargs
sorry
are-
for that, guys.
Wargs are like zombies, except for instead of eating brains, they just eat your stomach and then they're
Yeah.
like, aha.
Haha,
Need
now
more
you
stomach.
can't live. What are you going to do about that?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm interested to move forward and see the 4th episode. That ended up going really long. How long did
We
go
just
for that?
reviewed that for like an hour.
Wow. So we know we've got plenty to do sections on that. We could also just do multiple episodes and we can just pull out the best bits.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah, we don't want to go much longer than an hour though, because
Yep.
you know that's a lot to consume all at once. But thanks for tuning in to Lemon Law
Yep.
Podcast. We are gonna try and watch the 4th episode. I'm watching it tonight. I don't know if Tyler is. Tyler's driving home.
Yeah, I've got to help clean out my parents' garage. I got
Sounds
a bunch of crap there.
Like so much fun.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, I think part of it too is we had 3 episodes we were talking about. Hopefully, with just the 1 hour-long episode, it won't take nearly as long.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Make sure to let us know down in the comments if you're liking video, if audio works well for you. We may have to see if this audio turns out good. Maybe look elsewhere for better audio.
Yeah.
We'll see. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.